Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another 80-Bit Newscast. We are your hosts.
Penguin and Termite, I am Penguin.
And I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game news podcast running you guys through some of the weekly video game news that we care about, we think we want to share with you guys, and talk about it.
That's right.
What are we going to talk about tonight?
We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, and as always, we're going to have our hot takes on it to give you guys some. It's not just a BBC kind of explanatory thing. It is a more like a Fox News, CNN kind of thing, where we give you our hot pundits.
We don't use that word here on the show.
We're like a Tucker Carlson podcast.
Absolutely not. That name is Satan incarnate.
All right. So the news that we're going to go through tonight is we're going to be talking about a purchase that Epic Games recently made that is interesting. We're going to be talking about a rumor for some new hardware from a certain video game console developer. We're going to be talking about PlayStation had a spotlight on a certain technology that is intriguing to us. A certain game got leaked last week. A game that we knew was coming out, but some footage got leaked that we didn't get to cover last week that Penguin wanted to, so we'll talk about. And then, did you misspell this? Because it says...
I did. You say the correct word. Don't read my spelling.
Stadia is coming to another platform. So we'll talk about all of that. And as always, feel free to jot down your comments, throw them in the chat. Questions, comments, concerns, trollings, praise, whatever it is you guys want to say. If you're watching this live, please throw it in the chat, and we would be happy to see it. And if you are not watching it live and are watching on YouTube later, then any thoughts you may have, don't hesitate to reach out to us to talk to us about it. So Termite, real quick, lightning fast, where can they reach out to us if they want to share their thoughts?
As we introduced ourselves, Penguin and Termite, we are also 80-Bit Pod Smash, a weekly video game podcast that runs every Monday at midnight, and you can find all of our information about our social media platforms and our podcast platforms and what we're all about over at 80bitpodsmash.com.
Huzzah! All right. So let's jump right into the news. So Epic Games buys Fall Guy.
Ooh, this was big news that broke the day after we had our news show last week. It was in the morning. Epic Games buys Fall Guys developers. This is from Joshua Rivera over at Polygon. Epic Games has bought Tonic Games Group, the company that owns Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout studio Mediatonic. Announced via joint post on the Epic Games blog, the purchase is light on details, like the price, but it notes that Fall Guys gameplay isn't changing. The plans to bring the game to Nintendo Switch and Xbox will continue as previously announced. Beyond the shared vision among our teams, we see tremendous potential in combining forces with Epic, says Paul Croft, Tonic Games Group co-founder and chief games officer, according to Epic's blog post. Quote, whether it's about making our own games the best they can be or empowering other game developers to take their content from the kernel of an idea to commercial success, we know that together we will be able to reach greater heights. While Fall Guys is the headline act, Tonic Games Group is an umbrella organization encompassing multiple studios, including other small companies like the Irregular Corporation, the publisher of the indie titles PC Building Simulator and Touch Type Tale, and Fortitude Games, a UK studio that has not yet announced its first project. So, what do you think? Fall Guys is now under the umbrella of Epic Games alongside Fortnite.
Everyone's snatching everything up. It's interesting. I mean, considering Sony did them such a solid, when they launched, I would have thought they would have been a shoo-in for Sony.
Epic Games did a thing that featured the Unreal Engine 5 exclusively on PlayStation 5.
Oh,
so
right,
Epic Games is also kind of friends with Sony.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, it's an interesting get. So it's probably a good fit though. So good to know that they're still going to keep the commitment to bring it to Nintendo Switch and Xbox. Mm-hmm. Epic doesn't really care to... I would imagine Epic really doesn't care to compete with those platforms. They're big wars with Steam. So yeah, it's a big loss for Steam and a big gain for Epic Games in that regard. So I would expect that we'll still see Mediatronic's games coming on the consoles without too much competition.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess Microsoft could be considered a competitor to Epic Games, considering they have their own storefront on PC as well, and they have their own thing going with Game Pass on PC. So I could see how Epic might consider them a competitor in the PC space, but there's still no reason for them to not try to put those games on Xbox if they're owned by them. So those are my initial thoughts.
I heard it put on Kind of Funny that Mediatonic just looked out their window and saw cash trucks backing into their parking lot. It's like they just got inundated with a huge injection of cash, and yeah, Epic Games buying them is a big deal for them. That will elevate their game to like the nuclear level. And
for sure,
to be alongside Fortnite and to have some of those promotions that Fortnite gets, like all the Marvel's Avenger skins and like Kratos is in Fortnite, it's crazy. Like all that stuff is now possible within Fall Guys. So you have that much more like marketing potential with the game, and that much more eyes on you, and that much bigger of a player base. And I do believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Fall Guys is cross-platform across all of the platforms so far. I don't know for sure, but I think they are.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, because I know Fortnite is, and Epic is all about crossplay, so they're not trying to be the PC side versus PlayStation versus Nintendo, Xbox. So if all of that is crossplay when it comes out, when it goes to all the platforms, it's just that much more player base. This is like another flavor of Fortnite. The microtransactions, the cross promotions, everything. It's just going to be really, really awesome for Mediatonic, and I'm in the favor of Epic Games. I know a lot of people are in the Epic Games versus Steam debacle and have a bad taste in their mouth for Epic, but I think Epic is a solid games company, and I think it's a great get.
They've solidified themselves at the very least. I'm not their biggest fans, but I can't deny that they've done it. They've set themselves up as a. I mean, they were already a big contender in the gaming industry because of Unreal, but like. They did the thing. They made the storefront. It's not going anywhere. So it seems to be making money. It seems to be generating users. So what they're doing is working. So I may not love all of their tactics, but they've backed off on the exclusives. Like at least they're coming by it honestly in this case, where it's like, yeah, we bought them. They are ours. Like it's our game. So at least they're coming by it honestly in this case, as opposed to making wheels and deals. That's it is what it is.
I love Fall Guys. I think it's an awesome game. And so, like, if Activision or EA would have stepped in and bought them, I'd have been bummed. I'd have been like, well, I guess they're going to be sold out to the microtransaction cash exploitation model that those two companies have. Right. And but this is Epic, so I feel pretty good about it and their future. And since I own a copy, if you had a PS Plus account, everyone owns a copy of it on their PlayStations at least for free. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what new levels, like the development capacity of Epic Games is now at their disposal. So who knows, like bigger levels, bigger maps, more content. Like it's all good things if you like Fall Guys. I think it's awesome.
It's the consolidation of the gaming industry is starting to. Not bother me and not really concern me, but it's noticeable because I mean for so long we've been in this space where like there were these untethered developers and now that's disappearing at such a rapid rate.
That's a great segue to a conversation I kind of want to go down maybe for a few minutes. Like speaking of that, actually, the big publishers are the ones that can often fund these like indie studios, and I'm thinking of EA. They have an entire wing that's all like indie studios. Xbox has ID at Xbox. It's all independent developers like funded by Xbox, and like these studios make a name for themselves through that cash because they need funding to develop games, so they do. And then as they grow up, they become valuable, and then they buy them. It's like, we're going to start a new studio and make these cool games, and the point of doing so is to become so popular and viable that we get bought by a bigger publisher. So I wonder, like, if you trace, and I don't have like the pedigree list of the family tree in front of me, but I would love to trace out some of the developers that start indie studios that get bought. So think about like a giant publisher funds an indie studio, like a single game, to get the studio off the ground. They then go independent and then get bought by another big publisher. So it's almost like Microsoft feeds Activision, or like EA would feed Ubisoft, or something like crazy.
It's not just the indie developers too. It's that middle ground, like AA. What kind of became the AA, AAA space, and now AAA is becoming the quadruple A space. But it was just that they operated and made successful games for a long time. I think of like CD Projekt Red's a great example of one that's still untethered and exists, right? Like they're making AAA quality games. They're super popular and beloved, but they're not bought by anyone. They're not owned by anyone. They're still their own thing. And that's, again, it's like if Bethesda can get bought, it's only a matter of time till any of them can get bought now at this point. Yeah,
interesting conversation all around.
It is. It's a very interesting conversation, but we could probably have a podcast on it. So let's tuck that one away into the master list, and in the meantime, let's move on with the news. So the next news story is a rumor coming from Bloomberg, which usually equates to Jason Schreier at this point. It's not this time, which is awesome. But there is a rumor and Bloomberg doesn't usually report on things unless there's some backing to it. But there's a rumor of a Super Nintendo Switch coming out.
So the Super Nintendo Switch is Termite's name for it because I want it to be called that so bad. I'm willing it into existence. I've
seen that supported. That is not, you're not the only person to have posited that, put that name forward. So, Super Nintendo Switch Pro, a more advanced version of the Switch with an OLED display, capable of 4K resolution. And I don't know if they've implied 60 frames per second. Probably not. I can't imagine a handheld device like that getting up to 60 frames per second if the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X can barely scratch it in some cases. But still, they're definitely gunning for a 4K OLED display, according to the rumors, which would be a significant step up from the current display.
So where are these? What are the facts that are actually giving credence to this? So I'm going to read from Bloomberg's article. It was written by Takashi Mochizuki and Soe Kim, and they say Samsung Display Company will start mass production of 7-inch 720p resolution OLED panels as early as June, with an initial monthly target of just under 1 million units. Said the people who asked not to be identified discussing internal matters. The displays are slated for shipment to assemblers around July, the people said. Representatives for Nintendo and Samsung Display declined to comment. Of course, Nintendo seeks to sustain a Switch lineup that continues to sell well against Xbox and PlayStation. They're viable, they're still making money. The gaming community has speculated online that the introduction of an OLED or organic LED emitting diode screen, but Nintendo has stayed mum, and President Shintaro Furukawa said in February his company has no plans to announce a new Switch, quote, anytime soon. Samsung's involvement is the strongest indication that Nintendo is serious about updating the console and on a large scale. So that, and the Bloomberg Intelligence, quote, the release of a more premium version of Nintendo Switch's console with an OLED display and support for 4K graphics for the holiday of 2021 selling season could drive the company's sale above consensus for the fiscal year ending in March 22 and extend the life cycle of the Switch platform for many more years.
I'd buy it.
Nugget. Yeah, I'm in.
I'd buy it.
Day one,
I'm
shut
in.
up, take my money. Yep. I'm in.
Yeah.
Yes,
I was in on the Switch, and I'm already feeling the burnout of the Switch. I'm less interested in this console because of the PlayStation 5. So if they gave me an upgrade now, then yes, shut up and take my money. The only thing I'm not looking forward to this prospect of this newer console is fighting to get a pre-order.
Right, I know.
We're so lucky. We got so lucky with the PlayStation 5s, and I do not want, the Switch has been such a nightmare to get for people recently, the pandemic and everything like that. It hasn't gotten really easy. It got easier 2 years in, I think. We're on year 3, and 2 years in it got easier. I guess we're year 4. But 2 years into it, it was okay, finally people can get a Switch easily. And then the pandemic hit, and then people couldn't get Switches again. So this I will sacrifice whatever dark deity exists out there. I will give my life and offer my blood onto to get this to get Super Nintendo Switch. So I would not see this coming out this year, though. I would see this coming out spring 2022. That would be the 5th year. That would be year 5 for the Switch, and would get them a little bit further away from the PS5, Xbox Series X.
And if that's when the slated rumor, possible Breath of the Wild 2 release, you compare it with that.
Exactly.
And you have a stronger system. Now,
History repeating itself. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like the half step. This is the exactly history repeating itself. PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, like this is that for the Switch. Will it divide the player base? All those discussions. What is it going to be? Are we gonna have exclusive Super Nintendo Switch games that can't run on the previous model? Maybe.
I had heard a while ago. It's been rumored forever that the next Breath of the Wild game will be exclusive to the new Switch. So.
Okay.
That would be a way to. I mean, it would be a way to push. It would be a way to push both sales on the new Switch and push the like what that game is capable of, like the technology in making that game even better. So, yeah, all kinds of stuff. But again, this is Nintendo, so they could do a dual launch, like they did with Breath of the Wild and the Wii U. So,
and they came out with the new Nintendo 3DS. I have one right here. It's the upgraded 3DS. It plays games that are exclusive to the console, such as Xenoblade Chronicles, and so it's not unprecedented for Nintendo to do that, to split their base a little bit, but they never go all in. They haven't come out with a hardware upgrade to anything that really splits it. Like Donkey Kong Country 64 was, you had to have an expansion pack. Majora's Mask, you had to have an expansion pack on your N64, but that was it. Like, it wasn't like every single game that came out required the expansion pack. It was just a couple, and then there's a lot of enhancements to previous existing titles like Perfect Dark and Turok 2 and etc.
Right.
So I think if we just look back at what Nintendo's doing, look forward to a new Switch, 4K in docked mode, 720 in handheld, and hopefully increased frame rates.
That'd be awesome. Cool. All right, so PlayStation VR had a spotlight. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this was also like right after we recorded last time. So we know that PlayStation had a state of play, and we went through that last time. But right after that, there was this kind of reveal. It was 6 announcements in total with new reveals of PSVR games coming later this year. And why this matters is because before that state of play, Sony talked about the possibility of the PSVR 2. They are developing it. It's official. It has one cord. It's going to use PlayStation 5's graphics technology. They're leaning in on VR. It's not going anywhere. And I think it's really cool now that they're coming out with 6 new titles. It's just, I thought I'd run through them and announce them, see if anything, one does stand out to me, 2 stand out to me, that make VR viable. But the whole point of reading this is just to make VR, it's still to show you guys, the audience, that Sony cares about VR. It's still a thing. It's still happening, even though it doesn't make mainstream news all the time. So here they are, the 6 games that were coming out from the creators of Arizona Sunshine. After the Fall is a new game. It's a fast-paced co-op first-person shooter action to PlayStation VR. There's an expansive JRPG-inspired MMO, Zenith. This is one of the ones that caught my attention. An MMO in VR. Like, it's
very Sword Art Online.
Yeah, or like .hack. Where it's first person and like moving around. There's like first person combat with melee weapons. It looks interesting, really cool, but it'd be a really hard sell to be like, hey, you want to jump on this raid where you have to wear a headset for like 5 hours? And I don't know, I've never heard of a VR MMORPG, and this one actually looks really good. So if you want to look it up,
I'm looking at it now. It looks really cool.
Yeah, Zenith looks really cool. The art style is very like Breath of the Wildy, colorful, and lots of colors, and it's cool. It's good. It looks fun. I Expect You to Die 2, The Spy and the Liar. PSVR action adventure Fract launches this summer. Embrace the primal wilderness of PSVR survival game Song in the Smoke. So a survival game in VR. Like, we're starting to see these bigger genres now represented. So they're not the small experiences that we're used to. This is a much bigger exploration, open world, but survival. So it's all the stuff you would expect, like hunting and cooking and eating. And then Doom 3 is being ported to VR, which I think is amazing, because Doom 3 is one of my favorite Doom. They're all I love Doom. I'm just obsessed with Doom. So Doom 3, like, that would be, it was ridiculously scary, first off, when it first came out. And so I can't imagine playing that in VR if they up-res the graphics and make it look a little bit more modern. I don't know exactly what they plan to do with it. It just looks so cool. Like, the screenshots make it look like it's been kind of refreshed for modern. Yeah. So that would be terrifying, because Doom 3 was all about like enemies jumping out of the dark, and you had to switch between your flashlight and the weapons. It was very atmospheric. You're alone in this scary demon-infested spaceship on Mars, or space station on Mars. Anyway, seems really cool. I'm excited about it. I don't have a VR, but I want one.
Yeah, VR is one of those things where it's like, we talked about it all the time. We talk about it and still talk about it all the time on the podcast, and it just, we haven't reached that tipping point where it's become affordable enough to be widespread. But once it does, I do really think it'll take off. I think that right now it's niche because only a few people can afford either a PC that's capable of it and the equipment,
Right.
or to afford the equipment for the. I mean, it's basically the cost of another console even for PlayStation VR, which is arguably the most affordable option that's out there right now. So yeah, it just hasn't reached that tipping point of being like cheap enough. But once it is, I really do think it'll take off, and we'll start seeing more of it in that. Like, it doesn't have to have its own special thing. It will be gaming. I still believe that's likely. But you're right. What we're seeing is the precursor. The precursor to that is what we're seeing is they're starting to finally experiment with how do we do these different genres in VR, because that's what everybody's going to want to know when VR does make that jump and make that leap. When VR is, the equivalent of being the jump from 2D to 3D, where it's the next frontier of video games, people are going to want to know, how are you going to bring God of War to VR? How are you going to bring Dark Souls to VR? And this is the experimentation phase where they're working on that. So in the same way that people probably couldn't conceive of Mario in 3D until Super Mario 64 came out, and then it was like, okay, all right, we get this. This is now the future. Whatever that's going to be with VR, I think Half-Life Alyx was probably a big indicator as to what the quality and capability of VR will be and is. And so cool.
It's unique. Like, PlayStation 5 is $500, and if their VR is another $500, it's $1,000 to get a full-blown modern VR system that's contained.
And that's
it works.
The most affordable option,
right? And that's because gaming rigs to push VR to the same limits that PlayStation 5 could theoretically do would cost you $2,000+ for the PC, plus the hundreds of dollars for the headset and the controllers and everything else separate. So you're looking at like a $2,000 to $3,000 price tag to go PC with it, unless you have like an Oculus Quest, and that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, PlayStation jumping into VR, it's also their leg up. No one else is doing this. Microsoft and Nintendo, they don't have that. So
Nintendo tried a little bit with the what'd you call it?
The Virtual Boy?
No, they did it with the they had the headset for
the Labo.
The Labo, that was it. Yeah. But they didn't really other than that, it wasn't really the same. So
not like this.
Yep, cool. All right, well, it's still very exciting stuff in the VR space. So I like that we've taken some time to report on it. So, all right, so this one we could have talked about last week because it happened before last Monday. It happened like Saturday or Sunday of the previous weekend. But coming from Video Games Chronicle, a leaked Elden Ring trailer began circulating online last weekend. So it was confirmed by Jason Schreier and Jeff Grubb, who had seen the trailer officially. Like they had actually seen the proper trailer from Software, and they confirmed that what was leaked online was what they saw. It wasn't the whole thing, but it was parts from the trailer that they saw. So it is more or less confirmed. Now, whether it will be the trailer that is revealed, that's the thing, is because they talked about how that trailer was an older trailer, possibly from 2019 even, 2019 or early 2020. So it might not be it's supposed to be a trailer for internal use only, but who knows? We may see a variation of that trailer or a completely different trailer when they do finally show it. But it did confirm several things about the game. Number one is that it looks very much like Dark Souls. Like it's not as big of a departure from the vibe of Dark Souls as Sekiro and Bloodborne were. So it's going to be in a fantasy universe, and you're going to be playing a knight or wizard of some kind. But they confirmed some interesting things, like certain spells are coming back. It looks like they have a stealth mechanic like Sekiro did. None of the Dark Souls games had stealth, so it looks like they're bringing that mechanic in. A dedicated jump button, which is not something that... it's something that Sekiro had, but not Dark Souls. So being able to jump from standing position allows for more verticality of level design. There does seem to be an open world aspect to it, which is good because that again, it may not be an open world game, but to have even just bigger environments is another departure for them. Supposedly day and night cycles. So with monsters being affected by whether it's nighttime or daytime outside. What else do they have? There's something else I'm missing, but that's okay. So But yeah, it's very exciting for the From Software fans because it's the first hint of anything from that game that they've gotten since the trailer was originally revealed 2 years ago. So it's been 2 years of just waiting around for news about Elden Ring with nothing to show for it. So supposedly, both Jason Schreier and Jeff Grubb say that like a reveal, a trailer is coming of some kind. But right now, the Elden Ring subcommunity likes to joke "humanity restored" because they've gotten just even a taste of something after being quote hollow for so long, which is a reference to Dark Souls. So, what are your thoughts on the Elden Ring trailer leak?
While you were talking, I watched the trailer, and of course I can't have sound because of DMCA,
Right.
so I couldn't share it with the audience. But I was watching that trailer, and it looks like every big title is loving the art style of Breath of the Wild or Sea of Thieves or Pathless or Sea of Solitude. It's way more colorful than Demon Souls was.
Yes.
It's like that realistic type of art style, but then it's like muted with cell shading and not quite cell shading either. It's not like Wind Waker.
Well, it's also the trailer is also like very poor resolution, and they have like some of them have up-res. I don't know what the
it's actually appealing to me, this art style, and I think it's what they're going for.
And it does look more. It does look like they've made an effort to make it more colorful, which Sekiro was way more colorful than both Bloodborne and Dark Souls as well. So it seems like they're making more of an effort to make more color in their games. Yeah. And Elden Ring was like the furthest one for it. I forgot mounted combat. That's the other one that you can see in the trailer is mounted combat, which indicates it implies bigger environments because why else would you have mounts? So,
right. Yeah, it definitely showed horseback riding across fields and like big areas and combat like you mentioned, which I don't have any experience with any of the Soulsborne games, so I don't know how that's different. I just see another RPG. It looks fun to play.
Yeah.
So it looks cool. Like this could bring me into the Soulsborne categories if it's good enough. Like we'll see if we ever see it.
It's definitely like it's not the people have been commenting because some people were like shocked and surprised that it looked so much like Dark Souls, and there was a big conversation online, and people were like, "Of course, it's like a natural step forward." So it looks like it looks like it is to Dark Souls, but Dark Souls was to Demon Souls, where it's a natural progression forward, introducing new mechanics and new lore, like a whole new world, a whole new like continuity of story, while also still maintaining a lot of the inspiration and foundation that Dark Souls laid, while also introducing new ideas and new elements. So I'm stoked on it. I'm very excited. So cool. All right, well, this brings us to our last story, and so this is sort of a last chance to make any comments that you may have if you are watching live, which I don't think anyone is, but who knows? Maybe someone might jump in as I'm saying this.
Yep.
So feel free to say what you want to say before we wrap up. So our last story is Stadia.
So Adam Google Stadia might be like playable on Xbox, and we're talking about it. So Adam Bankhurst over at IGN reports Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One are getting an upgraded browser that can play Google Stadia. The Microsoft Edge Chromium powered browser can support other game streaming services like Amazon Luna as well. So there's an update that's coming. Microsoft Edge is getting updated, as reported.
So it's not like an official partnership. It's just they're getting a browser that is capable of running it. That's fun.
One benefit of the Chromium browser on Xbox is allowing it to work with browser-based streaming services like Stadia and Luna. Additionally, even though Xbox consoles have native access to Xbox Game Pass, this could theoretically also allow for Xbox Cloud gaming through a browser once Microsoft adds support for it in spring 2021. So furthermore, this should allow for improved compatibility with browser-based games and services like Skype and Discord through the web. This early version also includes the same or a similar sync engine used on Edge, which allows for extensions, vertical tabs, collections, and most other features found on Edge's desktop version. So I thought that was interesting, kind of a hilarious maybe oversight. I don't know how they're going to handle that. Updating the browser that works on an Xbox that happens to have the ability or capability to play Stadia on it.
Yeah. Can you use a regular controller with Stadia, like hooked into your computer?
I don't know what the official report is. I know they had said you'd be able to use any USB-based controller, but when it came out at launch, it was like, well, no other controllers are supported except for ours or something. It was restricted a lot. So I don't know where they're at with that right now.
Because I wonder if you're already using your controller on your Xbox, like could you just use that? Or
would
like,
think so.
would you have to like put your controller down and pick up your Stadia controller?
Yeah.
That would be dumb.
Yeah.
So
I just don't know the use case for that. I don't know who would
Right.
actually want to do that, but it's funny if you could.
Yeah, exactly. There's like the overlap here of people who have an Xbox and have Stadia is probably almost non-existent, but
Right.
yeah,
You never know. If you are, this is for you.
Exactly. Yep. So cool. All right. Well, that's our show. That is all the news that we were covering. So please check out our podcast, 80bitpodsmash.com. On Mondays, we will always drop a new episode. And then on Wednesdays, we will be streaming a video game each weekly Wednesday live stream. One of us will be playing a video game. And this week is Termite. And I believe he is going to be playing on March 10th, which is Mario Day. And he's going to be playing a bunch of Mario stuff with his capture card.
I actually have a new thought about Mario Day. I'm not going to reveal which title I'm going to play, and it's going to be one that you might not expect. So come to my stream Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and come see which Mario game I'm going to play.
I will expect almost any Mario game, unless you're like... yeah, no, I can't think of a single Mario game that I would be like, I'm shocked that he's playing this Mario game right now.
Yep.
So cool. So yeah, check that out. And then as always, our social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, and Discord, where you can find links or whatever to all of those at 80bitpodsmash.com.
Yep.
And that's it. That's all.
So we will see you right here, twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash on Wednesday at 8 p.m.
That's right. Hit the subscribes. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitch, hit the subscribe button.
So you can be made aware of when we go live and our comings and goings and what we do, and stay up to date with us.
So, all right, we'll see you next week.
Have a good week.